Good day, champions. This is Noble Mike Jamison. We are dialed in today for another episode of Game Time. And I'm excited. We are on episode 3, right? Broadcast 3, I should say. Broadcast 3. And we have an amazing topic today. It's a very simple topic, but very powerful, which is the power of clarity, right? Power of clarity. And one of the things I want to point out when discussing this is that we all have one second. We all have this creative power, right? We all have this creative power. I have it. You have it. Nobody is exempt from this creative power that we all have, right? And so one of the things that we have to be able to do is to tap into that creative power. Okay. And the one of the best ways to do that is through clarity. Okay, through the power of clarity. And for the most part, we leave our power unchanneled and undirected. Okay, we leave our power unchanneled and undirected, or clarity, I should say. And I'm reminded of a cartoon that I used to watch as a kid. And it's amazing how you can look back on some of these things and you can really see how influential getting, certain information at a young age, right? Certain concepts at a young age, certain philosophies at a young age can play a huge impact on your creativity development, even on your confidence. So when I was a kid, there was this cartoon called He-Man, right? That kind of dates you back. Some of you may have to Google He-Man, but it was a great cartoon. I can remember getting out of school or kindergarten or whatever, wherever I was, and racing home because I wanted to turn on the TV because I think it came on at like 3:30 or something like that, right? But He-Man was a hero, and he had his super friends, and his task was to overthrow and capture Skeletor, who was the villain, right? Skeletor was the villain. He's always trying to do something devious. And for the most part, He-Man was a regular guy. I mean, he was really, really muscular, as you can imagine, what most superheroes, he was built, in other words. I definitely went to the gym. But that really wasn't where his superpower was. What happened was that whenever He-Man would encounter Skeletor and his host of beings, okay, he would literally have to tap into an inner power in order for his strength to really come forward, right? And in order to do that, he would say something very specific at the moment in time. Okay, he would say, by the power invested in me, right? He would say, by the power invested in me, and then all of a sudden, this synergy, this energy, this power comes forward, right, out of him, and he basically puts on the mask, figuratively speaking, of He-Man, the hero, right? And so that lets you know that just in that simple example, that everything he needed to succeed was really already in him, but it really had to be called upon. Follow that, right? It really had to be called upon. And there's no different than us. Like, everyone listening in has a superhero part of themselves. Trust me, you do. Okay. And at some point in your life, you've tapped into that superpower part of yourself, because you had to call on it, right? You may not have said, by the power invested in me, but there was something that you had to do where you had to tap into the inner G, the inner you, the inner me, right? In order for you to accomplish and become the superhero that you ultimately became. Okay. And sometimes that tapping into that source, right, gave you, not sometimes, all of the time, every single time you tapped into that source, okay, it was very, very specific on what you wanted to accomplish. There was no guessing. There was no, it was very specific on what you wanted to accomplish. I can give you two examples of my own. And keep in mind, it doesn't mean that it has to be instant in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. It can be extended over a period of time where you tapped into something because you had a specific reason that you wanted to get something done. I'm gonna share one of mine with you. I got plenty of them, right? I say this all the time. You have literally 1,000 defining moments in life, and 20 of those moments will radically change your life. And those 20 defining moments typically happen when you invest, when you tap into that energy, that inner seat, that energy, okay, for clarity to get something done. Okay. And I'm going to share with you one of mine. I can remember being in the 6th grade. And for the most part, I was a good student because I didn't have to really study to make a B. Okay. I could pay attention in class. I could do my homework. But I didn't really have to study, and I could pretty much glide through my classes. And that's just the gift that I had, right? Just paying attention in class, listen to what the teacher said, and I could get away with a B, right? Which is slightly above average. Okay. If C is average, by the way. But in the 6th grade, I came across an English teacher, and her name was Miss Allen. I remember like it was yesterday. I'll never forget it. Okay. And Miss Allen was probably one of the most strict instructors I ever had in my life, at least up until that point. Because in her class, first of all, you had assigned seats, so you couldn't sit where you wanted to sit. That was in the 6th grade, by the way. So I'm 11 years old. Second of all, when you did your homework, you had to fold the paper long ways, right? First of all, you had to write your name, your date, and your period in the upper right-hand corner of the paper. Your name, the date, and the period in the upper right-hand corner of the paper, okay? Now, if you had your name, the period, and the date, you failed. There was no in between. Like, she was so direct and clear on what she wanted. You had to have your name, the date, and the period in the upper right-hand corner of the paper, not your name, your period, and the date. Your name, your date, and the period. If you mess it up, you fail. She didn't even grade the paper. Okay, that's first of all. Second of all, you had to start your work. This is English class. You had to start your work two lines from the top of the paper. She didn't want you to start at the top. She didn't want you to start at the first line. She wanted you to start at the second line of the paper. Okay, if you started at the top, you made an F. If you started at the first line, you made an F. Okay, you had to start your work at the second line of the paper. If not, she didn't even grade it. Okay. And then when you got to the second line of the paper, you had to indent about a tab, about an inch from the red line of the ruled paper. Okay. And if you didn't indent, if you started right at the end of the paper, the beginning of the red line, you made an F. She never graded it. And so I'm just giving you an example of how detailed she was. Well, that was a problem for me. Right. And so I would mess this part up, get an F. I would mess this part up and get an F. Forget about the paper that I was writing. I never even got to that point because of the simple things I was missing. So anyway, Miss Allen is responsible for giving me my very first F in academics. Okay. My very first F that I ever received. And I believe it wasn't because my papers were great. Right. But I was missing the technicality, the detail part of what she was asking for. When you turned your homework in, you had to fold the paper in half, right? Long ways. Okay. Hot dog, as one of my partners would say, not hamburger, flat, but hot dog, long ways. You had to turn your paper in long ways, fold it. Okay. Guess what? If you didn't fold it with the corners matching each other, you made an F. I mean, it was serious. And I couldn't, I mean, it was just so much. I felt like she was picking on me, but it wasn't really me. It was everybody. Okay. So she gave me my very first F. And I remember going home to my mom. And you can tell how detailed I remember this. This is why I know it was a defining moment in my life. So I remember going home to my mom. And I said, man, I got this F. And she couldn't believe it because I never made an F before. And she was like, well, Michael, what is going on? So I'm explaining to her. I'm making all these excuses on why I'm getting the F and why my paper wasn't graded and blah, 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 blah. Right. So she tells me, my mom, she said, look, you got to do a better job of following instructions. Right. This is her class. This is what she wants done. You got to do a better job of following instructions. Okay. And so here's what I'm going to do for you. This is my mom talking to me. She says, if you do pay attention and you do a better job of following instructions, okay, and you get an A, you bring this F up to an A, I'm going to buy you this Honda Spree motorcycle. Now, this is 1985, by the way. Okay. And these Honda Spree motorcycles were the thing of the community. Okay. Where I lived, Greenville, South Carolina at the time, the 864. And you could basically on the weekend, we would have I don't know if this is the first motorcycle club I've ever been a part of, but we would have these ride outs where 30 and 40 kids my age, right? We're 11, 12 years old, would all gather at one of our friends' house, and everybody would be on their Honda Sprees. And if you didn't have one, you would be on the back of someone's, and it would be 30 or 40 of us, and we'd be riding through the neighborhood. I mean, it was amazing, right? She was like, listen, if you bring your F up to an A, I'll buy you one of these. I was like, you'll buy me one of these? Now I want you to think about how significant it is. We were not privileged, okay? We were not privileged by no stretch of the imagination. I knew that my mom telling me that she was going to buy me a Honda Spree in 1985 is almost like buying a car, because we just didn't have that type of money, okay? And I was blown away. I said, you're going to do that? So that moment, I was very clear on what I needed to do. I was very clear. I wanted that Honda Spree. I knew exactly what I needed to do it. I needed to pay attention to details. My work was already good. And do you know, by the time the end of the school year came, I made an A in Miss Allen's class, 6th grade. I made an A. I brought the F up to an A. My mom held true to her word, and she bought me that Honda Spree. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the year is 2022 right now. I want to share something with you. If you go to my storage right now, today, I'm 47 years old. I still got that Honda Spree. It's only got 2,000 miles on it, maybe 2,300 miles on it. And it was bought in 1985. I still got it. It means so much to me, right? Because it was the moment where I was challenged to have clarity on what I needed to do. Okay, on what I needed to. I still have it today. Okay, so my point for sharing that with you is that everybody has in them, vested in them, the ability to succeed with clarity. But you got to tap into it. Okay, you have to tap into it. And the way that you tap into it, which we're not going to talk about on this session, right? But I want you to take the note down, is through affirmations. Okay, so one, you need the clarity, and the clarity has to be specific. Okay, that's first of all, you got to have clarity. The clarity has to be specific, but you have to tap into it with affirmations. Remember He-Man, right? By the power invested in me, I have the power. That's basically what he was doing in the cartoon. He was tapping into that inner power through his affirmation. Okay. I remember reading a book as a kid. I think it was called The Little Engine That Could, if I'm not mistaken. I might have been a toddler. Maybe I wasn't reading it. Maybe it was being read to me. Who knows? At this stage. But the point is, if you look at that reference, right, The Little Engine That Could, all throughout that book, okay, it talks about I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, right? Once again, affirming, right, clarity on what you want. Okay, so it's huge. It is a big, big deal. Okay, so we'll go over how to create these affirmations on another session. But here's my point. You must have clarity around, write this down, your desire. You must have clarity around your desire. Now, here's something extremely powerful. Most people have clarity around their wants and not their needs. Now, I'm not here to judge and say one is good or one is bad, but most of the time when you have clarity around your wants, you end up in debt and frustration. When you have clarity around your needs, you end up in financial freedom. It's not good or bad. It is what it is. What do you have clarity on, right? If you look at your surroundings, it'll tell you exactly what you have clarity on, right? I can remember listening to one of my mentors years ago, and he was talking about how when he first came into money, The first thing he did was bought this brand new Escalade truck, right, with rims on it. And one of his best friend's father, who had come from money, walked up to him and said, "I hope your kid's college tuition is paid for." And it was like a body blow, because he was thought, hey man, I'm making money now. I'm gonna get this nice truck. I'm gonna put these rims on it. And someone who had came from money looked at it as a frivolous spend, because no, his kid's college tuition was not paid for, but he's got 22-inch rims on a car. Think about that. Think about it, right? And so what you want to do is you want to have, again, and I'm not here to judge. We're not here to tell you to have, that you got to have clarity on your needs. Man, if you have clarity on your wants, just understand that that's the bed you made. Okay, just understand that that's the bed you made. Okay, but the ideal situation is to have clarity, right, around your desire, and your desires to be centered around your needs, not your wants. Ideally, okay? Ideally, if they centered around your wants, then you probably got all the shoes you want. You probably got all the name brand shirts you want. You probably got the jewelry that you want. You probably have the jeans that you want, but you probably don't have the house that you need. You probably don't have the long-term savings that you need. You follow what I'm saying? They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay, but understand that it's clarity. It doesn't matter what it is. You set that course, right? So you got to have desire. You have to have clarity around your desire, preferably around your needs. Preferably. Okay. So last thing, what happens is that because of this, we have the how can I say this? We have the tendency, is what I want to say. We have the tendency to, I like to use the word miscreate. Okay, write that down. We have a tendency to miscreate. Okay, and we miscreate over and over and over again, meaning we have the power invested in us through clarity, right? Focusing on our desires that's centered towards our wants or our needs. Okay, but because we are centering our desires around our needs most of the time, then we miscreate the world that we want, because we say we want this, but we're creating this. We say we want this, but our thoughts are creating this. We miscreate all over the time. All of the time. Okay? We have to change that. Right? You change that through proper affirmations, which we'll get into, all right, on another series. So being truthful. So here's the thing. First of all, being truthful with ourselves about our feelings on every subject matter leads to clarity. Write that down. Being truthful with ourselves about our feelings on everything that we deal with leads to clarity. Because if you're truthful with yourself and you're honest with yourself, then you're saying exactly how you feel about something. There's no gray area, and you have clarity. And when you have clarity, you can make decisions so easily, right? You can make decisions so swiftly, because if it's not congruent with what you're trying to accomplish, you can easily discard what's coming your way. Easily do it. So clarity is so amazing and so powerful. And what it does is that it helps the Most High God deliver, right, on your prayers. It helps it, which is a whole nother training, and I'm gonna do it on another broadcast. So today's session is to focus on making sure that you understand the power of clarity that you have in you. That's first of all. Understanding that everything you need to succeed is in you, right? By the power invested in you, right? You have the force of creative will. Okay. Making sure that you focus that clarity on desires, and those desires are what you need and preferably not what you want. Okay. And then putting the framework in place to affirm those things and create the life that you want. That's where we at with it. Right. And so I want to share that with you today because, again, we're going to be covering a lot of different concepts in these game time series. And so I want you to be able to add on the foundation as we continue to build, right? As we continue to build the person you are, the person I am, okay? We're building, right? We're becoming every single day, okay? So listen, this is Noble Mike Jamison, another session of Game Time with you. Appreciate all the love. Make sure you like, comment on the post, and we'll see you on our next session.